Welcome to Wigglesticks TV. Today's task is to try to wire up a starter engine start button. I also need to replace the top part of the switch because this one is missing the little plug that mounts into the hole for the clip-on. And then I also need to just drill a tiny little pilot hole for the this to notch into onto the clip-on. So I use this on-off one, and then I'm going to wire the starter button to replace this one to the one where the key would go. I'm going to use this much smaller one here because the profile is much less. This one should sit a bit nicer on the top clamp. So I'm just in the process now of putting the connectors and stuff on here, and then I'll start to look at how to wire this into the system so the button will work. So I'm just in the process of, I've got this screwed into the bottom here, and I'm just going to remove the two wires from the switch, the ignition switch over here, and then I will attach those to this plug, and then I'll attach these wires to the other end of the plug, and then I can just I'll test to see that the actual everything works, and then I will put it back on the bike. So here goes. I'm going to cut a little hole in here and then feed these two wires back through so I can bring them out here so they join a bit easier onto the button. Yeah, so once the soldering iron heats up, I'll just heat up this solder and then feed these two wires back out through that little hole. Not really sure why I'm trying to save this switch anyway, I may as well just cut it. There. So we have a factory splice on this particular wire, so I just have to feed that back through. Well, after a bit of messing around, we got the plug on there, and we have this coming out of here as well. So I'll just go and... So these ones go in the end here. So these are both clipped in here now, and then this plug will join together, and then we've got a starter button remotely located now. So starter button is remotely located now, rather than wherever the little push button was I cut off before, this one. So rather than this one now, we've relocated the starter button here, which will go in where the ignition is. So now we'll go and plug this in to the harness and connect the power and actually see if it does what it's supposed to do. Got my original ignition switch, and then I've got a red light hooked up to the starter motor, just to see that the circuit works when you push the button. So this is going to be a little bit tricky to do with one hand because I need to pull the clutch in, but so the clutch is pulled in. I've got my original switch here, and then when I hit the power button, it lights up. So now I can test the wiring bit that I just did with the starter button. So I'll just go and swap the switch the wiring over in the harness, and then I'll press the starter button and see if it switches the light on. One sec. I have the wiring harness I just did plugged in down here, so the battery is still connected. So if I flick the switch, the on-off switch here, we should see the light come on, so that's a good sign. And then now I'm going to press the starter button, and the red light connected to the starter wiring should come on if we've done it correctly. Awesome. So we've successfully relocated the start button from down here back up to this start button here, and then I'll just go around mounting that into here and we're good to go. So we'll end up having a nice push button start where the old key used to be. So pretty stoked that works. I'll pull this apart. I may as well drill the hole in here that locate, because this is just moving around at the moment. The button is mounted in there now. I managed to fill up the gap between the plastic, the outside plastic piece and the yoke with a piece of foam and some duct tape, so it's actually holding in there quite firm now with a nut on the bottom, so there's a bit of pressure. So I think that should stay in there pretty good. Yeah, I don't think it'll vibrate out or anything, but it's yeah, ready for go. So yeah, now I'll just get onto the switch. I've got the clip on out of the bike now, and you can see the little black dot there where I will drill the hole in the same spot as this one. Okay, holes in there now for the switch to click into that, so I'm just going to put it back in the bike. Got everything mounted back into place now. The one small issue is this, well, not really issue, but just a bit of tidying up. This cable I made from the base of here is a little bit too long. I might leave it like it is at this point in time, but eventually I think I'll shorten it way back to here somewhere, which is pretty straightforward. Just cut and re-clamp it just to make it a bit tighter in there, but I'll leave it at the moment being a little bit longer and see what happens once we get closer to actually starting this thing up and getting it on the road.